Another one of our C3 rock stars. This is Dr. S.G. Grant. He is professor and dean of the Graduate School of Education at Binghamton University. Dr. Grant worked closely with the team as the architect for the conceptual design of the document. SG, we just heard Kathy talk about the inquiry arc and the 4 dimensions. Can you drill down a little bit for us to explain what these concepts and approaches really mean to the social studies teacher in the field?
I'd be happy to, Michelle. Good evening to you and to Susan. I'm thrilled to be with you all tonight. I actually want to begin with a quote by Jerome Bruner from his book, The Process of Education. He said, "We begin with a hypothesis that any subject can be taught effectively in some intellectually honest form to any child at any stage of development." Now, we didn't include that quote in the framework. We probably should have, because the spirit of it really infuses the entire document. It's a big challenge to think that we could teach any idea to any child, but in fact, that's what we're all about. And I think that in lots of ways, the inquiry arc kind of encapsulates what Bruner was talking about. It's a set of interlocking, mutually supportive ideas that really kind of highlight the intersection of teachers, learners, and ideas. And I want to come back to that point a little bit later. But let me talk a little bit more specifically about the actual dimensions of the inquiry arc. Those 4 dimensions are: 1, developing questions and planning inquiries; 2, applying disciplinary concepts and tools; 3, evaluating sources and using evidence; and 4, communicating conclusions and taking informed action. You know, in lots of ways, social studies at its heart is really about understanding why people do the things they do. Some of those things are noble and ambitious and brave, and some of those things are cowardly and silly and naive. But they all make up the fabric of social life. And so, in some ways, everything that people do and say and think is fair game for social studies. That, of course, gives us this incredible terrain of material to work with. And that can be a great thing, but it can also be an intimidating thing. And so the inquiry arc, I think, in lots of ways, helps us make some decisions about how to approach teaching units and lessons. So a bit about each one of the dimensions. First of all, this developing questions and planning inquiries is really designed to front load the notion that social studies is about inquiry. It's about the questions that teachers and students create, bring to class, and then spend time thinking through. But you can't just spend all of your day asking questions. And so you need to start thinking about what are some of the ideas that we already know about the topics that those questions are based on. So the second dimension is really about this notion of identifying and applying the disciplinary concepts and tools. Now, in some cases, the questions that students and teachers have will be focused on a single discipline. A question like, what are you going to use your money for? Lunch or a video game? Sounds like an economics question. Whereas other kinds of questions, and I would argue that, frankly, most questions probably are more interdisciplinary in nature. So a question like, should we continue building transcontinental oil pipelines, has an economic focus to it, but it also has a real important political, social, and geographical dimension to it as well. So these ideas of discipline, knowledge, and skills and concepts and tools is really critical